All right, thanks for joining me. We are on page 6, which is part B of Introduction to Photoshop. We are going to place and mask the dancer. So anytime you add anything new in Photoshop, you want to be on the very, very top layer. That ensures that what you add is on top of everything else. So once again, we're going to go to File, Place Embedded, and locate the swing image. We're just going to hit place and position it up at the top of the screen. So just pull it on up to the top of the canvas and hit your check mark. All right, so we've put this up on the top. This time we want to hide part of the image, like cropping it. Now there is a crop tool in Photoshop, but if you crop, it crops everything. So if I crop it, I get rid of, the whole document. So that's not good. We're going to undo that. We definitely don't want to crop here. So instead of cropping, we can do what's called masking, just like we did with this black box before. But this time, it would be really weird for us to take a paintbrush and do that, right? It would look ugly. We wouldn't be able to keep our lines straight. So what we're going to use is what's called the rectangular marquee tool. So right below the move tool, it is the shape of a rectangle. And it's simply to select something in a rectangle space. So I'm going to select my brother and most of my daughter, except I'm going to leave part of the tutu out and part of her leg hanging out, okay? Don't go beyond the bounds of that picture, though. Okay, so here we go. I'm just selecting, again, a little bit of the foot hanging out. There we go. That's good. And you can go over a little farther if you want to. It's fine. All right, so something like this. This is our selection. So they call these little guys marching ants when you have a selection in Photoshop. If you don't like your selection, you can press Control and D, which stands for deselect, and then you can just try it out again. So if you don't get a selection that you like the first time, you can go in there and do it again by pressing Control D. No worries. Okay. Now, this time, because we already have a selection, when we add our layer mask, we're not going to get a white box. Watch this. Down here, we're going to hit Add Layer Mask. And when we do, check that out. So we have a white box with black around it. So what happened is the area that we had marked off in the rectangle is the white visible area, and the black part is the part that was not selected by the rectangle. So black is hidden. That's how layer masks work. Black are the hidden parts, white are the visible parts. So we've got that here. We've got it selected. We've got the mask on there. We're going to add kind of a little frame on it. So we're going to use layer styles down at the very bottom of the panel. Remember, the layer styles button looks like FX. And when you click on it, there's a list of optional layer styles. You can choose any of them that you want, but we're going to use stroke because it kind of looks like a little picture or like a Polaroid or whatever, just a frame. Stroke is just the fancy word for border. So we're going to click on stroke. You can move your dialog box out of the way a little bit so you can see. So you can see it has indeed stroked to the edge. It's added a border to the edge. Strokes have positions, so you can have them outside. If they are outside, as you make them bigger, they round. If they're inside, they point. But then they start to overtake your picture. So that's the difference between inside and outside. Now, inside looks better because it stays pointy, so let's leave it on inside. And then choose your color and go all the way to the top left corner and make it white. All right, that looks pretty good here. Let's go 15 pixels. So I'll select that, type in 15, and there we go. Looks good. And you can add multiple layer styles. So I could come in here and add another one. You just click on the words. Don't click on the box because it will add it, but it won't change this right-hand side to where you can modify the settings. If you click on the word, it adds it, plus it switches to those settings. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK here. And there we go. We now have the picture on there, and we have that added on there as well, that stroke around the edge. If you wanted to add more layer styles later, you could just double click the word stroke over here in the layers panel, and then you could go in and add, like if you wanted a drop shadow or something, you could go in and add that in. That's certainly an option. Okay, and then you just hit OK, and then notice now you'll see both of the effects in there. Okay, so page 7, to be cool, we are going to create what I call a pop-out or an out-of-bounds effect. And we're going to have the girl, the parts of the girl that we can't see right now, sort of popping out of the picture, which means we need a copy of this layer. And we don't want to drag another copy in there or insert another copy and then try to make sure we line them up. Instead, we'll just duplicate this layer. So again, Control and J to duplicate. Now I have 2 of these, but the problem is now I have everything, and I don't need everything, right? I need to get rid of this layer mask, so I'm just going to delete it. And I need to get rid of all these special effects. So I'm going to right-click on that and clear the layer style to get rid of those. So I right-clicked and deleted the layer mask, and I right-clicked and so now it's just as if I put it right back in there again. Just a fast, easy way to get that to match up. All right, now we need to pre-select the part that we're going to use. I'm going to press Control plus and Control plus again. And by the way, in order to scoot over to that part of the image that I need to access, you can hold down the space bar key. That allows you to pick up and pan across your image. So notice when you press space bar, it accesses the hand tool. Okay, now I don't know necessarily what part I need, but I do know that her tutu is hanging out of there, right? And part of her shoulder and part of her bow, but I'm not going to worry about the shoulder. I'm going to let the little bow part sort of hang out, and I want the tutu to hang out. And you can decide if there's any other parts that you want to actually hang out of the picture. Basically, we want to select a certain area. Now that rectangle marquee isn't going to work for that. So we are going to use the magnetic lasso tool. So third button down is the lasso. Click and hold. And then in the bottom position should be the magnetic lasso tool. Now for the purposes of this introductory workshop, we're not getting into a bunch of selection tools, but I did want to introduce you just to those 2. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use this magnetic lasso to kind of work around part of the girl. I'm going to start down here where the feet meet because I think that's just a good easy spot to start. So to get the lasso to work, you click one time to put down a pin is what I call it, but really they're just anchor points. And then you just start dragging your mouse down. And it should automatically put pins in every now and then. So I haven't clicked. But you can also click at any time. Now, students are weird when it comes to this and tend to want to I don't know what I'm doing. And then this happens and then it's a mess. If you mess up, you just press backspace and keep pressing it and move your mouse back until before you messed up. And then click manually if needed for any placement if it doesn't seem to be wanting to stick a point down. Okay? And that forces it if it's not going in the right place. So you're going to kind of work around. Again, don't try to click too often, but when you hit little corners, I find those corners to be easiest. Now, I'm not going to worry about that door frame. I'm just going to hop in here and get that. All right, this part's long, so it's a little easier. See, it's trying to go up the door frame here, so I'm going to backspace and force a point here and see if I can get it to go. There it goes. All right, I'm going to click there, click, click. And honestly, it doesn't matter if it's perfect. It's just going to be a pop-out part anyway. Now, you can still touch this up afterwards. So I'm just going to not worry about everything and come up here and get this bow. And again, I'm up too close to the top. So I'm going to hold space bar a minute so I can move down and then let go of space bar and keep on working here. So this tool takes some work. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect either. But it does take a little bit of getting used to. All right, now once you've kind of gone all the way around, just sort of go back down. It doesn't matter where it cuts the girl, okay? Here we go. You want to go back to exactly where you started. It'll show a little tiny circle. Okay, I'm going to click it. Now I have my selection, my pre-selection, right? And so now we're going to add that layer mask. And it's going to hide everything except the part in the marching ants. So add layer mask again. Look at that. And that looks pretty neat, right? So that's basically it. We have this all on a layer mask now, and we can touch up the layer mask as well, which we will do on page 8 of the handout. To finish up, we need to use a brush and then just fix any areas that we feel like need to be touched up. Now remember, black is the color for hiding things. White is the color for bringing back in things. So I'm going to grab my brush. I don't want to have this big brush that I use. So I'm going to use my left bracket key by my letter P to make it smaller. And probably for this, I don't want to have a fuzzy brush, do I? I'm going to click the drop down and increase the hardness. I'm going to go up to about 85 or so. And it is best to zoom up, Control plus, so that you can see what you're doing. Space bar at times if needed to move around. Okay, I am going to make this brush much smaller. I'm going to use black, so I'm going to swap my color. So black is on top. I'm just going to paint that off because it looks dark and it looks kind of funny. maybe some of these other little pieces. If you're going to get right into a corner, you're going to use a little bitty tiny brush so you can get into those little corners. Okay. And then I didn't like, her foot looks kind of pointy down here, so I'm just going to go ahead and paint out some of that. Okay. And that's all you have to do there. If you have other little parts that you want to bring in, or, you know, they're not going to know really what the original picture looked like, so you can kind of mess around with this as much as you want. But again, white is going to bring in extra, like I don't need, right? And if I press X, it'll switch to black, and then I can just paint out. It's like an eraser, but we're not erasing. It's still there. It's always there. So if we mess up, it's not a big deal. We just paint it back in there, right? All right. That's pretty much it. I'm going to press Control and 0 to just fit it all on there. The last little thing that we're going to do here with this is pick it up and rotate it. And to do that, we need to have both of these layers selected, because if we just press Control T right now, I'm going to move that. That's bad. Cancel, cancel. Okay. So I want to have this one selected and hold Shift, and also select this one. See how both layers are gray? That's what we want. Now press Control T. And now I can pick it up and scoot it a little bit, and then I can rotate it a little bit. Kind of make it look something like that. We're going to add some text down here towards the bottom. All right, that's it. We're going to press that check mark. We're ready to go ahead and save, and then pick up in the next one.